Hello, potential listeners. Welcome to the first episode of the Vibe or Die VODcast. My name is Elijah. I am Elijah. Okay. So, and I'm with three buddies, friends, fellow filmmakers. Would you like to introduce yourselves?
No.
Okay, bye.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I am Danzig, aka Zigomatic,
Please, no, get out.
aka Zigatron, aka
that-
Ziggy Wiggy, aka something else.
We
There's
never.
no
We
Dan in your name?
great, but no one really asked, but okay.
And I go to film school with Elijah and buddies.
Okay, who else we got?
Hello, I am second buddy.
Does second buddy have a name?
Preferably not, but well, here we go anyway.
Okay.
I am Dylan, aka Dylan.
Nice to meet.
I
to
go
meet you,
to
Dylan.
film school with Elijah and Ziggy Wiggy and another buddy. On to you, buddy 3.
Who is our other buddy?
I guess I'm Buddy 3. My name is Simon. I don't have any AKAs because I'm not cool like that, and I also go to film school with these nerds.
Yeah. So I think so far we've done a pretty good job of instigating this. I think we're really on our way. Yeah. For sure. Professionals already.
Yeah, let's just get
So-
Completely professional.
No, you just lead. You lead.
Oh yeah, no, hang on. Let me segue. Okay, so well, first, do we want to talk about how we know each other, how we got this started, and how we got to doing this fucking podcast?
This started because of a global pandemic.
I mean, it
Well,
didn't
let's
start
go-
because
let's
of the
go back, let's go
pandemic.
back.
Back up a few
Forward a
steps.
bit.
Okay, I'm gonna take you back a second. So, well, we all go to film school together. We all do JMC. We do a film and television course. None of us knew each other prior. How long's it been? 2 months?
2 months, yeah.
Yeah. So we're all pretty fresh to the game.
Yeah.
Sorry, I missed the question.
God.
Director.
You.
Yeah, but we talked pretty early on about starting a podcast together
That's a good
because
question.
Um, come over here and let me whoop your ass.
I mean, I wouldn't say no, but you literally can't do that.
Try me, bitch. Yeah, so... yeah, when we started talking in class, we all gelled, like, relatively quickly. We all had pretty eclectic conversations about movies. The Oscars just happened when we all had our first day, I think. Or they were
Yeah,
happening.
pretty soon after we started, yeah.
Yeah, so we were all just discussing that, and lightning was striking. Things were happening. And then pretty much by, like, day 3 of school, we were saying, oh, dudes, this is good. We should just basically do what we're doing now and record it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I suppose that's what we're doing now. It's definitely not...
It took
Anyway.
our time.
Yeah, we did. We procrastinated on the idea a bit, but I guess now that we are all in lockdown,
We never normally procrastinate on anything.
I
Yeah.
don't even know why you'd insinuate the idea
In
of
fact, we
procrastinating,
probably
Dylan.
Concrastinate. Yeah.
What's the opposite of procrastinate?
Yes, exactly.
I would agree, which is why we're recording it now, 2 months after first bringing up the idea. And it is because we are all in isolation in our houses, so what the hell else are we supposed to do? So on that note, fellas, how have we been going in that lockdown situation? What have we been doing?
Well, thank you for that segue, Elijah. It's been terrible and slightly better and then terrible again. Thank you. On to the next.
Thank you.
Fair enough.
Simon.
Sure, I guess I'll go next. I've been holding up a little bit. Had my birthday in isolation, which was fun.
Yeah, very nice. Happy birthday for yesterday.
Thank you. I mean, 2 days ago, but thank you.
What the fuck? Days are... Oh my god, it's going by so fast.
Time is meaningless.
I remember when
Oh
you
my
was little.
god.
They grow up so fast.
Shit, all the days are blending together. Sorry,
Yeah.
continue.
But been keeping myself busy, watching movies, writing movies, playing movies, playing video games. The usual.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah, pretty much same. I'm not much of a gamer, but
I've just been binging
sorry.
movies.
Pretty bad taste in my mouth.
keep it to yourself.
Well,
Yeah, I've been writing a lot. I've been working on pet projects, doing stuff for school, and I started this thing where I've mentioned it to you before, but every movie that I watch, I did this challenge for myself where they move down a year, so like 2018, 2017, 2016, and it's got to be a movie that I haven't seen. So I've been basically working my way through film history, which has been pretty fun. And Danzig, you've been joining me on that.
and being the
Epic
original
quest.
creator I am, I joined you.
Yeah.
And that basically, if a global pandemic didn't happen, I'd still be doing what I do every day. Watch a movie, go to sleep, eat, whatever.
Yeah.
Hey,
yeah,
nothing
pretty much.
changed.
In that order?
Nothing changed.
Yes.
In that order, yeah. While I'm asleep, I eat.
Okay.
That is a cursed image which I'm never going to be able to get out
It's
of
like
my
an
head
Oki
now that
after
we're... An Oki afterbirth. Oh yeah, it took me by the hand. I told you I'd work it into the podcast.
Jeez.
So
Yeah,
since we've all been watching quite a lot of movies, I thought it would be kind of fun if we spent the first couple of minutes, however long that'll be with our ramblings going on, to discuss some of the highlights of the movies that we've seen recently, some things that stick out in our minds.
Right.
If anyone has anything particular that they've been watching recently that they find would be interesting to talk about.
Yeah, I've got heaps because I don't watch.
Yeah,
big
I've got a
movies.
couple of good picks. If
Well,
if people want, I can
Okay.
jump in first.
I've seen
Yeah,
two
sure, go
movies,
for it,
so
Simon.
I will go probably never.
Well, one of the ones that stood out for me at the moment is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind,
oh, buddy.
as you guys heard in my incessant Discord ramblings.
Yeah, which were completely welcome because it's a fucking amazing movie.
It was a bloody good movie.
Yeah.
It,
Oh God.
especially like if you've had experiences in a similar vein. Obviously, like no one's gonna have the moments where they've tried to go to a doctor to erase memories because that's not possible. But
Obviously, yeah.
having those sorts of relationships and those sorts of things, it definitely hits really hard in those sorts of moments. And it's just it's such a well-made movie. Jim Carrey needs to do more dramas.
Definitely. It's even, yeah, as you were saying, it's like a very surreal plot that they have, but it's just representative of all of these things which feel so real and so authentic. And
Yeah.
I mean, even when I watched it when I was like 15 and had never been through serious relationship turmoil, I was still understanding what it must be like in this situation. The idea of just being so torn up about the relationship that you just want to forget about it all, and then it makes you reminisce and go through everything in this really disparate way. And it's all
Yeah.
done in such... Yeah, it's so beautiful the way that Charlie Kaufman has all of these quirky intricacies and makes it really melancholy, and the music is just
The music fits so well with it all.
oh, yeah, it just, you're not sure if you should cry or if you should laugh or if you should somehow do a weird combination of both at the same time. It's really... Have you guys seen it, Danzig, Dylan?
Well, I haven't.
Is it on your list to
Because-
watch?
Yeah, it is on my list because I'm doing the time
Yeah.
thing, like Elijah started. It's on my list for 2004, I think.
Yeah,
or
2004.
2004.
2004.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's on my list to watch there. It's either that or Millions. And
Oh yeah, I do love me some Millions.
I'm
Yeah,
going between the two. I haven't
underrated
decided
Danny
yet,
Boyle. Yeah. Oh well, they're both
Yeah,
quite
okay.
different. In a way, they're kind of similar in that they're both quite whimsical movies. But Eternal Sunshine is much heavier, and
Ooh,
Millions
yeah,
is a bit
definitely.
more. You could probably throw it on. It's a bit more accessible.
Yeah. Well, whichever one I don't watch, I'm definitely going back to after.
For sure.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's
for
not
sure.
finite.
Yeah.
Um.
And
Yeah,
I
but
cannot
Danzig,
wait.
what are some highlights for you?
For me, movies. Well, I'm a big boy. I'm a stupid boy too. I haven't really seen many movies. I don't really watch movies that is considered like the best in movie history. Like recently, I watched for the
Yeah.
first time Inception, Wolf of Wall
Yeah.
Street, some others I can't remember at the time when we get the phone.
How could you?
so unprofessional.
You damn
Because we've
right.
been
I mean-
so professional so far, have to
you
let it
kidding?
Yeah,
down.
so
I am the most
professional, like-
professional man you will ever find.
Big up Letterboxd.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
Seppi.
Can we
Yeah.
get that letterbox sponsorship?
Interstellar,
Absolutely,
another
yeah.
one. Hateful Eight was really good. 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. I've just been on a binge of movies I kind of skipped because I'm more into like B grade older movies that just are so stupid that I love.
Yeah.
But there's a
But,
definite entertainment value in them.
Oh, definitely. But yeah, Inception, mind blowing.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
definitely.
Kind of makes my top 10 movies.
Really?
Okay.
Same with Wolf of Wall
Of all
Street, I guess.
time. Interesting.
Yeah, of all time. That Inception was
That's
insane.
a long time.
Yeah, it's just.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Please.
Inception was amazing.
Mm.
The ambiance.
It's
I don't know.
amazing.
I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
The-
I did-
The atmosphere
I
of
didn't
it.
graduate English. All right, for those listeners out there. The ambiguous ending, like it's sick.
Yeah, we were talking the other day about it, and I was mentioning how it's really great how Christopher Nolan has built this reputation for being a mainstream director who also uses a lot of nuances and has a really intelligent craft. So his movies are accessible to people who just love things blowing up and really intense action sequences because his movies ultimately are spectacle pieces.
Yeah. Because I just came off Interstellar. I was having like a mini Nolan marathon.
Yeah, and it's both movies like incredibly epic.
Yeah.
And but they also focus on characters and they can delve into them, not to the extent that like insert random character director here. All the information's leaving my mind.
We'll put
But
a name up in the edit.
he
It'll be on screen.
Yeah, I'll do like ADR and edit some guy's name in. Gus Van Sant. Yeah, but he finds this perfect balance where you can also look at it and you can go, it's a really tight plot. It's very intelligently structured and all of the motivations feel really well realized and there's a lot of thematic meat to chew on in a lot of the movies.
Yeah.
And I was mentioning The Prestige as well, which
I need to see that
Tyler
one as
is his favorite movie is Interstellar, and he keeps on raving about Christopher Nolan. And I was like, "You haven't seen The Prestige? Fucking get out of here!" Because that's probably my favorite Christopher Nolan movie.
Right. I can't wait to watch that one.
Yeah, definitely. If you haven't got anything for 2006, I'd recommend that.
Don't think I do at the moment, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and also Wolf of Wall Street. You were mentioning that
speaks for itself. If you've seen it, if you haven't, then you're an
absolutely.
idiot like I was.
It's definitely on my list to watch.
Oh, Simon, you're in for a treat.
It's 3 hours that goes by so fast.
Oh, definitely, especially when you got Matthew McConaughey playing some
Good
Yeah,
shit, good
smart
shit.
ass drug addict. Insane.
Yeah, it's really the epitome of what Martin Scorsese has been able to do in the past, but matched with the technology that exists now. Not saying that Goodfellas is a poorly made movie or anything like that, but it's just
It's awful.
it's so
It's terribly made.
Yeah, I've actually I was kind of given some criticism when I rated it 4.5 stars on Letterboxd instead of 5. But anyway, that's another topic for another time. But I won't get into that. Don't shoot me. But Wolf of Wall Street is just it's so brisk and it's so vibrant and it is so fucking funny. I swear to God.
It really is.
The scene with the Quaaludes when he's just like slowly deteriorating and he's like, I found this new stage, the cerebral palsy stage, and he just fucking falls over.
Yeah,
You can just tell on
It was
the set of that movie they must have had an absolute blast.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I like that. I really like that cerebral palsy scene, like where he drives home in perfect shape. Then you kind of like a few minutes later, you see what really happened.
Yeah.
That makes it really funny.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love that movie. Yeah, I've been watching a ton of movies almost daily at this point. If I'm just pulling up my letterbox to remind myself, and they've all been for the most part pretty great. There were a couple of ones which are a bit mediocre, like Ali, the Muhammad Ali biopic with Will Smith.
Okay.
It was just, there was a great performance from Will Smith, and he delved into the like little mannerisms of Muhammad Ali quite well. But ultimately, it was just very long-winded, and it had this problem that a lot of other biopics have where you don't really understand what the purpose of it is besides just showing the things that happened to this person.
They're usually just hype projects for whoever the person
Exactly.
is, like
Yeah,
just
yeah.
hyping up how cool they are.
It's a promotional piece. It's
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
when in like the 1600s when someone would like paint the royal family, it's not meant to convey an artful message. It's just look at these powerful people, look how cool they are. And it was
Yeah.
the same when I watched I think Straight Outta Compton is a great movie, but it had the same thing where I was watching it thinking, what overall
What's the point?
yeah. What's the point? Don't get. And as I said, I think the performances in that movie were really good, and I think some of
They
it was
were.
paced quite well. But
Yeah.
it's just this generalized problem I have with biopics,
Yeah.
where I go, in order to make a biopic, like making any movie, you have to find what the overall message is. Find ideally
Yeah,
a more
what's the
contained
through
purpose.
thread for the movie?
Yeah, what is this person's goal? Not as a real life human, but as a character.
Yeah.
And if you guys have seen Steve Jobs, I think that that's one of the better examples of a biopic which was reworked to have a purpose, because it broke the movie down into 3 separate acts which follow different time periods, essentially, and all of them are real time and are contained behind the scenes of these press conferences which happened, which were real major stepping stones for Apple.
Yeah.
And they all follow their own
I haven't
little
seen
arcs.
it, but I definitely want
It's
to.
it's really great. It's written by Aaron Sorkin, Social Network, your boy.
Yeah, I saw.
But it's kind of interesting how he's known for having this really specific and definitive language and dialogue, but he works with directors who also have this very particular way of using momentum and having their own visceral style, because David Fincher is obviously known for these like serial killer movies and stuff, and then he's paired with someone who's known for people like walking around and talking, and people go, what the fuck, that's kind of interesting. But then you get The Social Network,
Yeah, well, it's
which
like
is just, it feels so like foreboding.
a hidden duo that nobody expects.
Absolutely.
Stuttering like a
Yeah, we're all just like bleh.
But
that's how it is, I
Social
guess.
Network and Steve Jobs are on my list.
Yeah, they're definitely movies that I'd recommend. As far as like movies about real life tech moguls go, they're very epic.
I mean, have you seen The Internship? Are you like? come on.
That was a good fucking movie.
Wow. Yeah, we'll
I mean, there
leave
was one
that
good scene.
discussion.
There was one good scene.
Looking through my list, there was actually there are a couple of key movies that I'd be interested in talking about here, which I don't know if you guys know of, but I would like to recommend them. One of them that I saw, which I really enjoyed, is 21 Grams by Alejandro Inarritu. Do you guys know of it?
Not at all.
Okay. It when did it come out? Like 2004 or something, and it follows 3
Is it
different
Sean
people's
Penn, I
perspectives.
believe? I think.
Yeah,
from memory?
Sean Penn's in it.
Yeah,
Sean Penn, who's that Mexican guy?
That Mexican guy.
That's
not
that's
racist
very-
at all.
No.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Hey, I mean, I could have said that American guy for Sean Penn.
That's a good point.
Yeah, exactly. It's only racist if you say it's racist. Benicio del Toro, sorry.
Yes.
Benicio
Oh,
del
I
Toro,
love him.
Naomi Watts, and Sean Penn, they are all...
Ooh, Naomi Watts. Hell yeah.
Yeah, don't mind for that. Yeah, so they are all the protagonists, and the movie cuts pretty sporadically through all of them, and it's mixing through several different timelines, showing this weird story about guilt and religion, and about how life sort of finds its way into different places. It's kind of difficult to describe the actual plot of it without spoiling anything, but it has this really interesting, like, ethereal tone. And at first I wasn't sure I was going to get into the movie, because the first 20 minutes of it are literally, like, every 2 minutes they're just cutting into a different timeline. Like, okay, here Sean Penn has a beard, here he doesn't, and what, did he just die? Oh no, he's alive here, what the hell's going on? It eventually comes together, and it weaves in really smart ways. And I think it would be a really interesting movie for people to dissect in the philosophical messages that it sort of brings about, which I guess I don't want to spoil. So I don't know if there's really too much I can actually say about the movie.
Yeah.
But
it is a.
But I can say that I would highly recommend it.
It's a recommendation. Well, it is gone on the watch list.
Yeah, definitely.
Would definitely recommend it. And I guess all of Alejandro Iñárritu's work I've been trying to watch. I still have one more movie of his that I haven't seen called, I think it's called Beautiful, which apparently it has that same gritty drama aesthetic, but it also has like fantasy elements, I think.
All right.
Okay.
So, and it's got something to do with someone who, like, I may be getting this completely wrong, but someone who is able to like heal people Green Mile style. I'm not sure. And this weird like complexity as maybe I'm completely wrong, but that's what I heard. But he is a very interesting director, especially when he segued into those more mainstream.
Well, I mean, I really did like Birdman.
Yeah, exactly. When
Like, that movie's insane.
Yeah.
because that was him sort of almost going into the mainstream, but he was bringing this really interesting finesse and craft into something which, in comparison to some of his other movies, has a pretty mainstream level budget.
Yeah, right.
And it's, I think it's really well
If
done.
you haven't seen that one, I really highly recommend it. Recommended?
Yeah.
No. Recommendate. No, not even that. Recommend. Jesus.
Oh,
Recommendate.
we're losing
That's the-
brain cells by
recommend.
the
That's the word
minute.
for the books, yes.
We'll get there eventually.
So I
Yeah,
highly
we're turning
recommendate Birdman.
we're turning into Michael Scott, just saying things completely wrong. How are the turntables?
How the turntables, yes.
Yeah. Were there any
What
other
they say.
um
Crazy world, lot of spells.
This isn't becoming an office podcast, Danzig.
Oh, Jesus,
Yeah,
I
we're-
could go on for days about The Office. I've seen it like 8 times now.
yeah.
We're not here for TV shows, which is why I'm stuck
But
talking
this
about the
is
two movies
movies.
I've seen. Because I think it is
What
my
were
turn. I
the
think
two
everyone else
movies
is gone.
Yeah,
Um,
we've all
Well,
at least had a go.
I'm not going to talk about Judy because I watched that on accident. So I'm going to talk about the movie I actually watched that day, which was Jojo Rabbit, which I wanted to see for ages.
Yeah, I've been meaning to say that for like a year.
It is like
Or,
It's
whenever
very
it came out.
it is easily in my top 5 movies because like
Wow.
as soon as I saw the trailer, I was like, I need to watch this movie. I am looking forward to this movie. Oh, I can't see this movie. Oh, I have to wait for DVD release now. Oh, look, I'm finally seeing this movie. And honestly, I could never actually properly speak about it because every time I try to, I lose the words because I just
Yeah,
love the movie
understand that.
so much.
I
Like,
mean,
is
Taika
honestly that
Waititi
good.
is great.
yes, I
Absolutely.
haven't watched a movie by him or anything by him that I haven't liked.
Yeah,
He is
like
talented
he,
as hell.
everything he's done.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's great.
So I'll just like bring up some moments in the film. I won't specifically say anything about them, but because I don't want to spoil anything, especially for Ziggy Wiggy here who still hasn't seen it. So I'll just be like one of the things that I noticed the most going through the film was how much they showed the mother's shoes.
Yes.
And at
Okay.
first I thought Tarantino had a hand, but it turned out it had a
Yep.
different reason, and I was not expecting it at all, and I was just, wow.
Not a foot fetish.
No, it was not. For one, the shoes.
definitely
It
not.
was on the shoes, not the feet.
Yeah.
Um,
It is
Fair
very
enough,
effectively
there's
done.
there's just
And it
yeah.
it requires not a lot because it's set up quite consistently but subtly, and then towards the third act, it doesn't require a lot to just completely take your breath away.
Yeah, and then like
Is Sam Rockwell in that one?
yes,
Yes, yeah.
yes, he's Captain
And he
K.
is-
From memory.
He's very good in it.
Yeah.
He has some moments which are very
You-
funny and also some moments which are very
You
satisfying.
wouldn't think that he's a main character from the beginning, and then as the movie goes on, you see just how much of an impact on Jojo's life he has.
Yeah. They really have a great way of giving everyone moments to shine. Maybe not Rebel Wilson.
She
but
was
most
just there
people.
because she's giving.
She doesn't. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, with
Yeah,
that movie, like even its characters, with a lot of movies, you see like you could even say this for Lord of the Rings, because the books do it great, but in the movies, what is Legolas?
Yeah.
What do
He
you
is
know
a
about
cool
him?
blonde guy that surfs.
Yeah.
He's an elf that surfs on ships.
Yep, he's a good
And
archer.
there you go.
He has a bit of a good old banter session with Gimli every now and then, and that's about it.
Yeah.
But with this film, even the characters you'd expect to be a Legolas in this film, like Captain K, turn out to be super important by the end of the movie, and they've done just enough to class as main character.
Yeah, everyone is given enough depth so that they feel like they were significant to the story, but also were tangibly real people themselves.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
even one of those movies I can remember these characters' names. I struggle with characters' names that aren't like the main character, or if they don't say their names a lot. So, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
remember Captain K. I can remember Elsa's name. It's like, yeah, I can't remember the mum's name, but I don't think it was said that much.
They definitely don't feel like puzzle pieces that are just put in to challenge the main character or to progress the story forward, even though just as a basic idea of screenwriting, that is kind of what all characters are to a certain degree. But they did it in a way where it doesn't feel like that. Everyone has a really specific set of behaviors, and everyone has particular goals, which fit into the themes of the story so well. And that's a really wonderful thing about Jojo Rabbit, is that the ideas that are expressed in it, while if it was done wrong, could seem preachy. This idea
even
of
at the beginning,
not
I
judging
felt
people.
super uncomfortable with how much
Yeah,
they were
it was
doing the
kind of
Heil
funny.
Hitler thing.
Yeah, because at the beginning they have this opening scene where they're playing a German cover of I Want to Hold Your Hand, and they're showing all of this footage, and when you piece everything together, so they're basically saying that Hitler is like the German Beatles. Okay, so because everyone's just going crazy about him, and it shows what that being in the zeitgeist is like. And when you're a child, you only know what you're told.
Yeah.
And if everyone around you is just convincing you that this is the way that life is, you're going to believe them, and your wild imagination is going to extrapolate upon that. So there are scenes where he's talking about how Jews must sleep like dangling from the ceiling, and they can read people's minds, and it's like, that is exactly how a child would react. The only way the movie could work is if it is from this perspective of a 10-year-old boy, and it does it so beautifully.
Like his
if
Jojo
they
Rabbit's
looked
character.
at an adult, it wouldn't have worked.
Like he's so, like even the amount of time he spends at the camp for boys, or just like German youth in general, like the Hitler youth camp, the time he spends there, I wasn't expecting him to spend that much time there, just to keep it kind of hidden. I'll just say that much time there. Like, I was expecting that to be not that much time, but a different amount of time from the trailer. And then instead, there was parts where he's doing these other things, where he's more involved with his mum, or he's more involved with Captain K than I expected.
Yeah.
Like, he even just randomly runs into him.
Yeah, and the way that
Just
the
at
plot is
random
structured
times.
is... It's very well done, because there were never moments where I thought it was dragging or that it was saying something unnecessary. Every sequence, it either added something significant new to the plot, or when it was slower, you felt that it was necessary to sit with these people and understand the situation they're in and who they are outside of the movie. I really got that sense, especially with Scarlett Johansson's character as the mum.
Yeah. She was like, I wasn't sure about that cast, and then it turned out to be a pretty good choice.
Yeah, at first, on paper, when I was like following it on IMDb, I thought, so she's going to be doing, I guess, a German accent, and yeah, not sure. And it's in a Taika Waititi movie, and so far, Taika Waititi has not really taken a bad step. But I was thinking, is he going to go too far into the meme? Like, is he going to do something really stupid? Because it's a movie about Hitler.
It's a comedy movie about Hitler. You really have to toe the line carefully there.
Yeah, and the second it goes too far into comedy and becomes farcical, it really runs the risk of just
being offensive,
having no purpose. Yeah, not and detaching us as the audience. Yeah. We look at it the same way we might look at some of those like spoof movies, epic movie or whatever, where we're just like, I don't even view it as a movie. I'm just a person watching things that have been shot and cut together. But there, nothing even remotely close to that happens, because the way that tone is utilized is just... I mentioned, I think, when I did a review of it on Letterboxd, I said that previously I mentioned about the movie 50-50 with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, that it is, for my money, the best blend of comedy and drama that is done so seamlessly, where it is both absolutely hilarious and really gut-wrenching at points, and neither take away from the other. And Jojo Rabbit fits into that category perfectly.
Yeah, it finds that balance pretty well.
Definitely, yeah. Because there are moments which are just absolutely ridiculously funny, where I'm sitting there in the cinema looking at my friends going, what the fuck did they just they said that?
Yeah.
And they just fucking did that.
It's,
Yeah, and then
it manipulates
3 minutes
emotion
later.
so well as well.
Absolutely. You go
Can't wait to watch it.
oh yeah, highly recommend, because then towards the third act, when things get a bit more
If
dire.
you haven't got anything for 2019.
No,
Yeah, you gotta-
I watched Booksmart.
You got to watch Sonic the Hedgehog for 2019. The best movie
Oh
of
yeah,
the
sorry,
year.
what was I thinking?
I actually really want to watch that one.
Or Cats.
Yeah.
Sonic.
Oh, yes, of course.
I need to see Cats on some kind of psychedelics. I'm very much looking forward to it when it happens.
As Andrew said in his Letterboxd review, it's not as terrible as you'd think it would be.
I find that just difficult.
Like, Andrew rated it 4.5 stars.
Yeah,
Have you seen it, Simon?
Yeah, I saw it when it first came out.
Would you rate it 4.5 stars?
I'd give it like 2 or 3, probably closer to 3 stars, because the plot
Yeah, right.
is very,
Yeah.
it's good enough for what it is. It's the cinematography and the visuals and everything regarding that I had the issue with, because I knew the musical prior, so I had that, like, I knew what I was getting into going into it. I was like, okay, this isn't going to make a total amount of sense, but it's enough that I can enjoy
Right.
it.
So that actually leads to something interesting. So you're a musical theater person. You know a lot more about it than the rest of us do. So
Yes, I'm a bit of a theatre nerd.
So could you explain to us what exactly what's the point of Cats?
The point of Cats is cats. In the words of Andrew Lloyd Webber, it's about cats.
Beautiful.
How did it? Because
Beautiful.
from
What it was,
so
it was during Andrew Lloyd Webber's like rise through musical theatre.
Yeah.
I apologise to all the musical theatre nerds if there are any that listen to this. But yeah, it was during Webber's rise through theatre, and he both wanted to make a musical that proved that he could. It was essentially the idea of like, I can do whatever I want and everyone will think it's awesome. And so he went and made this musical based on a series of like short poems that like each short poem was turned into a character, and it was just cats. And the actual plot is that they want to be able to die so that they can be reborn in a better life, because apparently being a homeless cat with a single character trait isn't good enough.
That makes no sense.
Interesting.
So they all want to be able to sing the best song for Judi Dench's character, whose name I can't remember because they have
just
the
said
most
it's Judi
absurd
Dench.
names.
Judy
Sure.
Dench, the person, is
The
in the.
character's name is
Are you
what I
telling
meant,
me
but yeah.
it's
It's
are you
Judi
telling
Dench.
me it's like a tournament?
Pretty much. Each cat is singing a song to prove that they're the best cat to be able to be reborn, and it's all built towards the the plot is memories.
Right.
The entire plot is built towards again, I don't remember the cat's name, but shit, what's the
Judi
actress's
Dench.
name now? No.
Jennifer.
The-
Hold up, let me get Cats up on
So
my computer.
I just
real
was
quick.
thinking we should name this podcast episode "The Explanation of Cats," and we'll get heaps of viewers.
Yeah, actually.
Oh,
So
yeah,
the
absolutely.
actress of Grisabella is named Jennifer Hudson.
Jennifer Hudson. Where have I heard
Yes,
that
Jennifer
before?
Hudson, that's it. The character of Grisabella is the reason why the story happens, and it's amusing because he didn't even have that song until they'd finished their like practice run, their like pilot run essentially. He
Right.
hadn't.
That was a song which wasn't originally made for Cats, right?
It was. It was originally written for Cats, but it wasn't written by Andrew Lloyd Webber. He was
Okay.
for a while he had a co-writer with him that would like help him do the music and everything while he did the plot. And this guy wrote it, and then not long after he wrote it, had a falling out with Weber, and they haven't spoken since, and neither of them have spoken publicly about why they stopped talking, but it is what it is. And he took the rights for that song with him.
It is what it is.
And so Weber had to like fight him for the rights for it because he'd already done the pilot run of the musical. So the musical had been staged, it was ready to go, people had seen it, people were buying tickets, and he didn't have his key song in it. So he like fought this guy for it, and he's like, fine, you can have it for this run, you can have it for Cats, but I'm never working with you again. And that's how we ended up with Jennifer Hudson singing Memories.
Yeah.
You know, this isn't what I got when I watched that episode of Kimmy Schmidt. It was a very different explanation of Cats.
It sounds like the plot is basically keeping it simple and mystical to make way for the spectacle of the show, which is a thing which is very specific to Broadway.
Yes,
as
absolutely.
You go out, you pay a lot of money, it's an experience, and you're able to go with friends, relatives, and
you get,
it's
like,
a show.
The cats walking through the audience as they're singing, and like it's definitely more of an all-round experience than cinema is.
Yeah. And that to me seems like something which just innately doesn't translate cinematically.
Yes. Tell that to Tom Hooper.
Yeah. Fucking, I swear, I thought Tom Hooper was... I thought he was good.
He directed Les Mis. What are you talking about? He was good.
You were the chosen one.
I mean, Les Mis was well shot.
It was absolutely well shot. Far better shot than the Cats.
Because I think the problem is that, so Tom Hooper doesn't have a visual effects background. So he's working with technology that he is trusting will make it look the way he has in his head. Not realizing that
nobody has tried before and was brand new for that movie.
He was putting his faith in something which didn't really exist.
Yeah,
so
pretty much.
No matter how technically proficient the crew may be and how interesting the compositions he had in mind were, all of that stuff gets thrown out the window because he's working, technically speaking, in a field that he doesn't understand. It's like, if you get like Martin Scorsese to do a painting, he's going to say, well, I'm not a painter, I direct films. And then they're going to go, oh, but it's the same thing. And then why would you be confused when the painting is shit? Because he doesn't know how to paint. It's the same scenario. Tom Hooper did not know the technology that he was working with. And therefore,
he just had to hope it would work.
Yeah, no matter how great the cinematography was on set or how great the choreography.
Right?
So I've heard, yeah. But I have seen behind the scenes of the choreography.
It was wild, yeah.
Yeah, and I've seen the way that they were talking about it with such integrity and confidence. It really...
They were genuinely so excited to make this movie.
On set, it would have been something that felt really important.
Yeah.
But that was because they were just working blindly. They didn't realize what it would come out as. So all of that hard work, it doesn't really matter because... those special effects can't save it. They just destroy everything, no matter how good any of the performances are or anything like that is gone.
Yeah, it kind of relied on the look of it because in the musical sense, like in the plot of it all, there isn't much to go on.
Yeah.
So they had to rely on the visual effects, the cinematography, the choreography, and the actors. But they chose Rebel Wilson and James Corden. To be fair, the characters are not that relevant to the plot, like what little plot there is. They're kind of side characters for the side characters.
She looks so...
Oh,
that was horrifying.
Have you guys seen the clip of her song?
I haven't seen anything from Cats. I refuse.
Well, when the trailer opened and it showed Rebel Wilson, I was like, oh my god, a new Nightmare on Elm Street, but I was deceived. My eyes deceived me.
It gets worse. So she plays the character that's like really lazy. She's just getting by, living her life, and so
I thought you were talking about the character.
Yes, both. And her song
God.
involves little mice and cockroaches to prove
Oh,
that
I've
she's
seen
just
this.
like
I've seen this on YouTube. It's so cursed.
the mice and the cockroaches are uncanny valley edited. It's
Oh,
children's
Jesus.
faces on these
It's
mice and
so
cockroaches.
bad.
We should stop.
How did they look
is
at that and go,
disgusting.
oh yeah, it's okay, it's all right to do this? Why? They had so many
The
people
cockroaches
clearing
were
it and
crawling
editing
on the
it and
table.
color correcting it and like watching the files that they were sent in the cinemas to make sure it's okay for projection. And no one went,
Yeah.
wait a minute, are we doing the right thing here?
The cockroaches were crawling under the table. Rebel Wilson punches the table, and like 2 or 3 cockroaches fall into her mouth, and she just eats them. And you hear this tiny child scream as she's eating it.
God. And they went, yep,
insane.
it's all good.
Awful.
I feel like
Can't-
nobody really thought about this movie.
No, they didn't, because Tom Hooper doesn't think.
How is it
I'm
that
going to
there's...
sit here and insult Tom Hooper now, because
Oh.
he can't do a musical movie. He chooses the worst musicals to adapt, and then doesn't adapt them in a way that works for that story. Like, he had this beautifully shot Les Mis, and I will not deny that the cinematography is great.
Absolutely.
But because of the story of it all, and the way that it's done, and the casting choices that he'd made, the cinematography can only get you so far. And so he did what he could with what he had, and it wasn't great. And he either needed someone to work with him, or he needed to just like do something differently. And it was a disappointment of a movie. And then Cats, he tried to use technology that nobody had used before to get across an idea that he didn't need to do. Like, there was other ways to do the Cats, and it was just he needs to sort himself out.
Because theatre and movies are obviously two mediums which they have different priorities, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Because they're completely different experiences when you go out to see them. You can physically react with things on stage, and there's potential for spontaneity, fourth wall breaks. And if there isn't necessarily a well-defined plot with really specific nuances and subtlety and very specific dialogue, it doesn't matter because you're going out and you're seeing a show. It's like going to see Cirque du Soleil, or it's like going to see a stand-up comedian. It bears a little bit more commonality with those things than it does movies. But that's not really what movies are designed for. Everything in movies, to a certain degree, are intentional. Sometimes you might shoot a scene that's improvised, for sure, but they are choosing to edit it together in the movie, and they're putting it in a package which is meant to be purposeful. You're sending it out for a reason.
Yeah.
And because of that, and it's the same with video games as well. Video games fundamentally will have certain... they're entertaining you in different ways. So you can't necessarily, in the same way that not all video games will work with movies, not all theatre productions are really going to work as movies either.
You've got to choose the correct ones.
Yeah. As a theatre person, would you say there are some productions that film producers have been sleeping on?
Well, I'll say not necessarily from it hasn't been made into a movie yet, but I definitely love the adaptations of Moulin Rouge and Chicago. Both of those they take the essence of the performances in the theatre and turn it into a movie in a way that works better than these more modern adaptations have. Their essences are different. They're not as elaborate. They're not as crazy. Obviously, Moulin Rouge is a bit off the wall.
It's a bit crazy.
Its general concept is grounded enough that you can turn it into a movie without needing that whole audience involvement that theatre inherently has.
Yeah, for sure. It's actually kind of funny that you mention Moulin Rouge and Chicago, because those are both movies that I have watched in the past month, and Chicago I watched last week, actually.
Yeah.
And I do think that it was quite good. I think I gave Chicago a 4 out of 5 on Letterboxd, because there were lots of moments where I thought, okay, this is very clear that it is adapting something from the stage, but it is turning it into something which is very applicable cinematically.
Yeah.
So there were all of those scenes where they would be having the real life scene in a courtroom or in a jail cell, and then they would be intercutting it with these visions of a big Broadway production. And I thought that was really smart because it, one, is paying homage to what I imagined the show actually looks like on stage.
Yeah, and having the like intercutting of both happening at the same time.
Yeah, but it is utilizing that in a way which works towards the story of the film. So it's characterizing that Renee Zellweger has these aspirations, and everything that happens to her, she's sort of viewing through this Broadway lens. Even though in a movie, it doesn't make sense to have all of these people move around and sing and dance, and they technically never do. It only ever happens in these imaginary sequences, which is really smart.
She always imagines them, yeah.
Yeah, so if they were to make a movie which was no musicals, no dance numbers, just the essential plot that they had, people would go, oh, well, this isn't faithful enough. What's the point of it? There's no, like, meat. This is just a generic-ass plot.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot happening if you take out all of those theatre aspects.
Yeah, and likewise, if they made a movie where everyone is, like, going around in these real environments singing and dancing, people would be taken aback, because there are a lot of people who may not like musicals as much, and they might kind of be detached from that. And they found, I think, a perfect balance.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I very much enjoyed that, yeah.
Yeah, let's get a quick shout out to Christina Applegate.
I knew you'd work it in at some point.
Biding his time.
Yeah, I was waiting for the perfect time. Like, oh, they're gonna get it.
They're talking about cats. I don't want to listen to this. When can I
just
throw
wait.
in?
Well, I haven't seen it, so I didn't know what to say. But
I was just doing a bit of Googling while we were talking about cats. And yeah.
That's not sarcastic.
Yeah, I gotta make...
Yeah, thank you. I gotta do my research. I gotta make sure that I'm well informed. And apparently there was a scandal recently with Tom Hooper, where the animation team came out and they talked about how they would just work to death constantly, and that since Tom Hooper didn't have a background in special effects, he didn't understand
He didn't know what it would take,
Yeah, he didn't know that it was impossible. So he was consistently overworking them, apparently verbally abusing them.
Oh, wow.
And consistently changing the things that he wanted. So he'd give them specific directions, they would do it, and then he'd say, oh, actually, I don't want that because you did it wrong, or something.
Absolutely lovely.
Apparently, according to these, they're all coming out and they're saying...
sounds like someone I know.
They're saying he's a legitimate asshole.
Yeah.
Like a full-on dickhead. And sure, maybe it was the pressure of working on a $150 million movie and it got to him. That can happen for sure. Yeah. The stress of the working environment.
If someone gave me $150 million to do with a movie right now, I would totally flop.
$150 million to work with one of the greatest theatre directors and writers of all time to adapt one of his most well-known shows of all time. Yeah, it would get to you a little bit.
It definitely would.
Yeah, it sounds insane. I wonder how much money they put in the special effects.
Oh, God.
All
Can't
of
have
it.
been much.
Oh, those poor people. And the movie tanked as well.
They never got work again.
Can't even talk about Idris. We can't even talk about my man Elba.
Bruh, Idris Elba, man. I feel so bad for him.
Don't they wear fur coats in the movie? Isn't that a bit like fucked up? Isn't that a bit fucked up when you think about
it? If they did, that's awesome.
No, they did. Yeah, both Idris Elba and Judi Dench both had fur coats.
You're kidding
they
me.
took off at different parts of the movie.
That's fucked up. Does
that
mean
they killed each other, didn't you?
They're wearing it as trophies, right?
Yeah, they more or less wear it.
It's okay. They went to a better
dad,
life.
which is what he bought.
They wish they'd gone to a better life.
Instead,
they
they're now
do.
my fur coat.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. It was nuts.
It doesn't.
And then the bit that gets me with that though is he was like working them to the bone and everything. And then, like, I'm not blaming the animation team
not at all.
I'm mostly blaming Tom Hooper in all of this. But then you look at the final product, and there is entire stretches of scenes where Judi Dench has no fur on her, like, elbow up.
Yeah,
you can like see her wedding ring still on her finger.
They re-edited the movie while it was still in cinemas, and
Jesus.
they upgraded the cut.
Was so funny.
Like patching a game.
Yeah. We, me and a couple of mates went and saw it a couple of days after it had come out, and we managed to see it before they brought the new edit in, like while they were still releasing the new edit.
Yeah.
So we got to see the pre-edited version of it.
Yeah. What was it like?
It was fucking weird, man. Because like it was very obvious the moments where they hadn't done the edit. Like it wasn't,
Right.
oh, there's a guy in the background that was missing a bit of fur or something. It was like Judi Dench front and center for 5 minutes of the last moments of the movie with nothing on her hands.
That's insane.
How does that happen in a major motion picture? Like seriously, how when there's that much money involved and that many cooks in the kitchen?
Yeah.
How does it get to that point?
Get past everyone?
Yeah, something seriously wrong must have happened logistically for it to get to that point.
Yeah, I think it should have continued development for a lot longer. I think there was a deadline set in place by the studio that Tom Hooper had to meet, and because I remember hearing that there was like shots that should have only taken a day or two took them almost a week because of all of the like mocap suits and all of the fur checks. Like they would put balls of what they wanted the fur effect to look like into the frame before they do every take.
Mm-hmm.
And things like that were taking way longer than they were expecting. So the shoot went longer, so the animation team had less time, which would be where a lot of that issue with the abusing and all that would have come from, because he's like, we need to meet this deadline and you have to do this quickly and do this thing, but then changes it. And yeah.
They underestimated how challenging it would be, so they just had an unfinished product, essentially.
Yeah, pretty much.
I think this is why we're lucky that as a quote production team that we have Andrew as an editor.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Shout out to my main man Andrew.
Yeah, let's give a quick shout out to Andrew.
AKA Bud5, Andrew.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Jeez.
Andrew is our champion.
Yeah.
Oh,
Just a quick question to you guys. Have you guys seen The Hunt? Like 2020?
I have
the new one? No.
I'm annoyed that it stole the title of an idea I had.
Oh well, you'll probably hate to hear that it's also the title of a 2012 movie starring Mads Mikkelsen.
Honestly, I figured it was already a taken title. It's like
I mean, it's The Hunt. The Hunt is like a title which, of course, that exists.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this new one, haven't seen it. No.
No, I watched the trailer for it today because I saw Emma Roberts was in it. Like, shout out to her. I love her.
Yeah, we'll have you on the show anytime.
Love Emma Roberts, but yeah, I watched the trailer today. It looks pretty interesting.
I've seen like a lot of pictures, and that's about it.
Yeah, like,
it does look
I never
interesting.
Watched the trailer till today. It looks interesting.
I've had a bit of it told to me. I've had some spoilers. I don't know. It's obviously got a very clear message, and it's got that thing where it's using the fact that it's satire to just sort of do ridiculous, dumb things. And
totally.
that can sometimes work. There are quite a few good movies which are satire and they're ridiculous but for a purpose. Like everyone loves Dr. Strangelove. Thank You for Smoking has like a bit of a cult film. Yeah. But the way that I don't want to get into details since you guys don't know too much about it, but it just seemed like, I don't know, it didn't really serve enough of a purpose beyond the most surface level observations. And it's
makes sense.
Yeah, it's that typical sort of you people bad, these people good, but they also sometimes bad.
Totally.
Everyone sucks.
Yeah.
Every political agenda is poo poo, and yeah.
I don't really know.
What?
What?
Huh?
Did you just say, can we get it sponsored by Bud Light, or did you say?
I'm not,
we should be sponsored by Bud Light.
I'm gonna throw this out there. I'm sorry. Personally, I'm not a beer person, so Bud Light, if you're out there,
you are now, right?
listen, Bud Light, I appreciate you, but I'm gonna say no. But hey, Jack,
Matthew McConaughey, Wild Turkey Long Branch.
yeah,
If you want
hey, Wild
to,
Turkey, how you
sponsor
doing?
us.
Hit me up, yeah.
Yeah.
Matthew McConaughey,
My
if you're listening,
socials.
Jack Daniels,
yeah, don't mind
JD.
for it.
If JD could sponsor us,
Yeah, please.
Anything alcoholic for me.
Hit us up, yeah. I mean, I'll say this right now to the people at Jack Daniels who are listening. You right now, you think this podcast sucks, don't you? But how great would it be if we were all smashed? Think about it.
That would be even better. Yeah.
If Jack Daniels sponsors us, I guarantee now we will do
drunk podcast.
Drinking games.
We'll do
Drinking games. Yeah. So we might as well talk about this now. So the podcast was one overarching idea that we had for what we'd be doing together.
Out of 8.
Yes, but we also thought, because this would be the large thing where we talk about anything, we just discuss everything that's going on, update on our situations, talk about fun movies, everything. But we'd also have
purpose stuff.
Yeah, but we also wanted to do more specific stuff, sort of kind of Red Letter Media style YouTube videos, ideally, where one of these series could be every month I recommend an old classic movies to you guys, and we discuss it, and we sit down and we'll watch a really shitty movie, we make a drinking game for it, we talk over the whole thing.
What are you talking about?
We're just talking about cats. Come on, man, keep.
Oh, sorry, I've been drinking JD. Brought to you by Jack Daniels.
Get it now at your local bottle.
And if for non-Australian viewers, that's your, what do they call it?
Liquor store.
That's it.
That's it.
Liquor store. I just realized how much I'm gonna hate listening to my voice editing this fucking audio.
You voted to edit it.
I know I did, because I'm fine with editing, because I do love doing sound design. I have all of the I have Audition, but with the way I've been talking since, I'm kind of hyped up at the moment. I'm just oh god, I'm gonna listen to myself and I'll be like, that's what I sound like.
It's I'm not testing this. It's just being sent straight to you.
Yeah.
Straight to you.
Yeah, I mean it'll be fun, but at the same time we're just gonna
maybe open up a bottle of whiskey,
Yeah,
Jack Daniels.
Yeah. See, once again, another reason why we need that sponsor. Hit us up. Yeah, we're free. Yeah. We're since we're in lockdown, we're not that too busy. Hit us up.
No.
Well, back to what we were talking about.
Yeah. So
we'll also we would think of doing vlogs when we were doing interesting stuff, not stuck at home. Maybe on sets at JMC.
Yeah.
Might do a little behind the scenes videos, stuff like that.
Yeah. Rich. I mean.
So basically,
we're still broke, Dylan.
Yeah.
Speak for
you don't know when this is coming out.
You think I have a job?
Because for all of us, this obviously isn't the main thing that all of us want to be filmmakers. All of us want to be we want to make.
When I'm famous, someone will find these podcasts and ruin me. No, I'm joking. I'm never gonna
absolutely.
They'll expose.
Don't talk shit about anything that's important.
But this can act as a
I'm
fun
gonna get
outlet.
President Trump. Oh my god! No,
calling out cats and.
Yeah, true. We can't get.
He'll turn out to be a saint.
Yeah. Imagine.
Yeah, he'll be so apologetic for cats. He'll start crying. Yeah.
He sees this.
Yeah. Essentially, just us shit talking it for ages. Simon explaining it, and me going Simon, can you explain why cats exist?
Why cats is bad?
Why are you the way that you are?
Honestly,
who's your mom? What does she do?
So yeah, Danzig, as you were saying, we could potentially do vlogs to document the actual the short films we make and the stuff that we're developing. Because
improve that we aren't just lying.
No.
Yeah, we're not just sitting here couch potatoes. Because
I
guess if I'm speaking for myself, I never wanted to be a YouTuber or a online person. That never even really crossed my mind.
Yeah.
It was always just about I've said this to you guys before, and it's just the most accurate way of putting it, I guess. I have movies in my head. I just want to make them come out. And
yes, the Scorsese approach.
yes,
Yeah.
I shall throw my things at you, and you shall make them.
But yeah, I like doing everything. I like the writing process. I love collaborating with actors, and certain elements of those several processes we're able to do in these endeavors where we're working on podcasts and we're editing them and we're doing YouTube videos, I guess, after quarantine ends. But
yeah, definitely.
It's all centered around the fact that all of us have this commonality where we love movies. We're all creative people, and we're using this not as our primary outlet, but just as a way to discuss
For now.
it. Yeah, so it's a good discussion platform, and hopefully for anyone who listens to this, we could start that dialogue and just find other like-minded people, and hopefully I don't even fucking know if this conversation's like halfway interesting for other people, but like
we'll see one day.
Hopefully it would be, and
someone will tell us
yeah, I mean, hey, like I've mentioned before that I really love Sardonicast with like Your Movie Sucks, IHE, Ralph the Movie Maker, and
Big up Smodcasts, Kevin Smith.
Yeah, for sure. Because obviously they're very interesting personalities, but it's just we're sort of vicariously joining in this conversation, discussing the things that we love, and people who are articulating their thoughts about it in interesting ways. And I guess that's kind of
well put.
Thank you. I guess that's kind of what we want to do here. Is it can essentially act as us giving each other the down low on what's been going on, what thoughts we've been having, just general discussions.
What's gone through our mind.
Yeah.
And not the murders, but the other stuff.
Oh well, we'll keep some stuff.
We'll get to that in the future episodes.
Yeah. No, we'll save that for the vlogs. Yeah.
That'll be in the vlogs.
Yeah.
But it won't just be like this, like movie, like I don't know what we do.
It's kind of hard to explain what we talked about, really.
Just gonna be movies, like no mentioning of TV shows or games or anything. We're just here for movies today.
Yeah. But in the future, we'll probably be talking about a lot more video games.
It'll be a lot more vibrant
TV
when
shows.
we're talking about TV shows because I've actually seen those.
Yeah, we'll dive into a little bit of everything.
We'll have many different topics.
Some points, yeah.
We'll be talking about everything.
Yeah, I think for the majority of us, the one big commonality is movie. I mean, obviously, we all have like lives and stuff. I don't know about you.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Sorry.
Can you define that?
I misspoke. You define it. But my man, quick maths.
Yeah. But we'll be doing a lot more than just movies. So bring in a wider audience.
Yeah.
And,
essentially, I just
look forward to us talking about wrestling soon as well.
Yeah, that's another one. Me and Simon gonna be talking about.
Have you got a name for that yet?
Yes, we do, and that will be revealed in upcoming episodes.
Once we hit 5 subscribers, there'll be a name reveal.
Yeah. So that's one thing that I'm really excited about is the two of you are massive wrestling fans. Yeah. The rest of us in this group are we don't know that much.
So me and Simon will be just recapping recent wrestling events, also teaching someone like recent lore, like someone like from VODcast, the team teaching someone about the recent lore, maybe historic events in wrestling. Just like see how it goes, really.
We've got to do an episode on like Austin versus Bret Hart.
For sure.
Oh, definitely.
For sure. You know what I mean, Dylan?
That sounds like names.
Yeah, but this is why the show will be interesting, because you two know so much about this and you're really invested in all of the lore, and the rest of us, we have no idea what the hell's going on. So if you guys were to just sit down in a YouTube video and give us the 101 essentially on what's going on, and we're just like desperately trying to catch up, I think that'll be really interesting.
It'll definitely.
I'm excited for that.
I can't wait for that. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
In its own way.
And it can also, it can kind of, over the course of it, we can sort of chronicle everyone gradually understanding more and more. The same with the one that we mentioned where I would be every month recommending a new classic movie, which then I guess 3 of us would have a discussion about, which is very long form.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
That show would essentially just be chronicling an education on like more sort of artsy films and understanding like the history of film. So it'd be a lot of older stuff and a lot of classic stuff.
And that one will
movies.
mostly include Elijah because
yeah, I was thinking of calling that one Forcing My Friends.
Yeah.
It'd just be like, watch Yojimbo, but it's got subtitles and it's black and white and it's like, do it. Hobbit is just all about death and it's depressing German movies.
We've got heaps of ideas in the bank.
Yeah.
For, topics, just episodes, I guess.
Yeah, and I think
if you guys have any ideas as well, you definitely need to comment below with some ideas yourself.
Yeah,
because comment below if you have any ideas.
We are still figuring out what. I don't know where we're.
Actually, we have a Twitter account. What is it?
Let me pull it up. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Okay,
on top of that, we also have Bud6, Tyler, who is a streamer. Be sure to check him out.
Yeah. Go follow him at Sci-Fix.
I'll have to spell that.
So quickly to clarify to the people listening, there are 4 of us right now in this podcast, but there are more of us in the group.
About 3 more.
So give or take.
I did general maths.
So episode to episode, the lineup may vary slightly. I think this will be relatively steady, but we may swap out.
We'll always introduce who's on the episode, though.
Yeah. So
gets confused.
Yeah, and we might occasionally add other people if they want to come on. Obviously, we're welcome to have these discussions with whoever's interested. So fellow people at JMC, hit us up if you want to have a weird discussion about the movies you've been watching for sure. Because I imagine, I presume they will be like the only people listening to this. So, but ultimately we are figuring this out somewhat as we go along. Where
we're hoping for the best.
Yeah, and the actual form of it, we're not really sure of. So definitely, if whoever's listening has any questions that would be interesting, any ideas for topics that would be really fascinating to dissect, for sure let us know and we'll see what we can do. We'll see if it can start a conversation, and it'll be hella fun. So Simon, if they want to follow what we're doing and keep up to date with the latest information, where can they find us?
So that would be at Vibe or Die with underscores between each of those words on Twitter, or Vibe or Die Productions on YouTube. Or no, just Vibe or Die on YouTube.
Excellent.
Beautiful.
We don't produce.
That sounds marvelous.
Yeah, we haven't produced yet because
Yeah, well, so we're recording this episode with not too much prep on the social media side of it, and I guess
we'll have it there.
I guess our plan for now is that we'll record this, I'll edit it together, and then we'll record like another episode as catch up, so that we can have like a consistent release schedule. I guess.
Welcome back to Behind the Scenes. We hope you enjoyed the full episode.
Well, no, I want to. We're being open. We're being transparent. We're talking about the whole thing.
Doesn't mean it won't be behind the scenes.
Yeah, I guess.
Maybe I'm just providing you with intros.
Maybe we are. There's a lot of options. Editing all around.
Yeah.
But I guess, unless there's anything else that we want to talk about, I guess we can probably wrap that up.
We can wrap that up like a chicken McNugget.
I don't think you.
That's it. That's all I have.
I was trying to do something wise there.
Okay. I think we'll
keep jamming. Wait, hold on. What does he say?
Please.
Oh, there we go. Keep on keeping on. There you go, boys.
Amen. Never do anything to anyone ever. Whatever that Michael Scott quote is.
What's my perfect crime?
Yeah. Well, I think we've done a pretty for what it is. We've done a pretty good job, boys. So
yeah, well, we've got heaps of topics coming in the next.
Yeah, we've got a lot of other things that we want to talk about. There's a lot more interesting discussions coming your way, you, the audience.
Should we give them a topic? Should we do a little sneak peek? What's the topic?
Have we got a sneak peek?
Do we?
Oh, okay. We'll do this one. A few episodes, or whichever episode we choose, we'll be pitching a Star Wars spin-off. Boom.
Okay, yeah.
That's an exciting one.
So rewriting episode 9.
Yeah, so in the next episode, we are going to be doing a bit of a talk on Star Wars. We'll be discussing what movies we want them to make in the future, well, probably, and our problems with the sequels. It'll go in all kinds of crazy places. Who knows? So, thank you for...
Star Wars, if you want to sponsor us...
Disney, shout out to you.
We're available,
we'll be talking trash, but give us money.
Yeah, give us money to talk trash about you.
We would like to mention you. Please give us money.
Well, we should have like an outro. We should...
I'm saying, we do say, like, just remember to vibe or die.
If you don't vibe, you die.
Hey, I mean, we can figure that out. If you have any idea of an interesting thing that we should say at the end, I don't want to fucking.
Or just interesting things in general. Please don't forget to mention them on our Twitter. Always available. Always checked.
Vibe or die _ each after each word. Vibe _ die.
So thank you very much, everyone, for listening to this crazy escapade. Thank you, Danzig. Thank you, Dylan. Thank you, Simon. Thank you, Elijah.
Thank you, Bud 2.
And
all right,
that'll be it for now. We will see you all in the next episode. Goodbye.
Kamakaha! And then just end it after that.
And that'll be it. Okay, and the recording is now ending.
3, 2, 1.